Cinderella in Beige Heels, an original short story by Jared I. McGee. She unflinchingly launched forth inquiry after inquiry, demonstrating both a desire to know and a vast knowledge tempered with rich experience from which those questions sprung. Smiles, seriousness, laughter, furrowed brow, joyousness. Cinderella in the Beige Heels charmed the aristocracy of academia all. With her smoky eyeshadow and eyeliner gracing her equally smoky skin and her jet black leather jacket matching her equally jet waves of hair, she was a sultry presence in an otherwise monotone of mediocrity and slovenliness, demanding all eyes to her even after her battery of questions ceased. Her beige stiletto heels, of course, stood out as well, even from her own field of blacks that constituted her atramentous outfit. They stood out because of their color, but their absolute impracticality is what really caught the attention of the nobility, as they were drawn to such impracticality in crafting their own arguments. The chosen royalty of the day ceased their ruminations on the mysteries of the world with a thought toward speaking toward the engaging Cinderella. When the repetitive speeches and self-congratulatory exultations came to an end, though, the cerebral royalty realized that in the midst of all these masturbatory exercises, Cinderella had rushed out, assumedly off to grace other realms with her quirky, encyclopedic knowledge. But what an unfortunate twist! Cinderella chose not to leave behind one of her mile-high beige heels for any of the poor nobles who now desperately sought to track that electric intellect. Seas upon seas of faceless androids echoing similar and repetitive chatter-speak churned and surged through the labyrinthine hall of the ivory tower, making the possibility of seeing those beige heels flitting through the cavernous halls far less probable. The various literati were crushed. They commiserated and decried this loss together for a brief moment before making a beeline to the free coffee, the ambrosia of this particular nobility set. Intellectualism and scholarship, much like the nobility of old, you see, does, more often than not, breed safety and, thereby, boredom. Incestuous ideas filter through one another again and again to the point that a severely inbred mono-idea made for cyclic, albeit comfortable, conversation and exchanges. Cinderella, though, had lit the conversation aflame, avoiding the diadems of their time. No heteronormativity diamonds, no homogeneity rubies, no code-switching emeralds, no agency amethysts. Cinderella was a bastion of originality, and even without those gems, she shone brighter than even those ladies who bore entire crowns of them. Oh, to be a free thinker, in a time when and where those with anything resembling originality were quickly quashed and ostracized. Oh, to be merely around a freethinker in such days. The heady feeling that Cinderella gave to everyone present in the Sheraton conference room that morning woke them like an icy blast on a too warm autumn morning. She opened eyes because she did not spout the angry, bordering on misandrist rhetoric that she should have been steeped in. She wowed rooms by being simultaneously gracious toward and oblivious of the man-boys dressed in sloppy dress wear that adored these conference women. She warmly smiled while still exuding the cool-tinged edginess of a keen intellect and utterly logical nature. When the nobles found out that she was on the docket for an 11:30 a.m. slot for Cascade Ballroom D, they flooded into the rather humble presentation room. Not all of the ivory tower was bedecked with spectacular furnishings after all. Cinderella was to read with a group presenting papers on the state of academia and higher learning in the realm. Her contribution to that panel was listed as Echo Chambers, Ivory Towers, Buzzwords and Isms, a highly suspect first-person assessment of the state of modern academic discourse. So, she would be commenting on the realm itself. What a treat! How droll! This young, beautiful outsider was being quite audacious indeed if she thought to critique them in their own keep. As 11:29 grudgingly tipped over into 11:30, a kindly old man in a threadbare beige cardigan, a musty washed-out black-turned-gray dress shirt, and some black dockers from an eon ago hobbled in and up to the front of the captive audience, wheeled what had seemed like a forgotten television cart over, fiddled with some knobs and buttons, and then went to sit down in the front row. Just as he came to rest on that poorly cushioned conference room seat, the television, resting atop the cart, sparked to life. There she was, in all her original stately beauty. Cinderella. This little old man must be one of her retainers, then. He was wearing the colors of her heraldry, after all. The royals present were disappointed to discover that she would not be giving her paper live. Cinderella apologized graciously, explaining, in her dulcet, velvety voice, that her absence from them was unavoidable. The disappointment did not have the underpinnings of anger that might have come in the wake of these critiques, though. After her hypnotic explanation, they were put at ease, and, if that had not been the case, she began reading her paper in that same confident voice, and it locked them all in place with half-cocked smiles and heads bobbing with approval. They were agreeing that they and their systems of thinking and rule were all antiquated anachronisms that should have long ago receded into a corner of the world only historians chose to venture to, if only to put context to modernity. She finished presenting her paper, having never looked at notes or broken eye contact with the camera. She thanked them all for the benefit and honor of their attention. Then, the television went black. Still, those in attendance stared at the screen, wanting to cling to the fading residual image of Cinderella. The same kindly old man in the threadbare beige cardigan, the musty washed-out black-turned-gray dress shirt, and the same black dockers from an eon ago made his way back up to the cart, refiddled with those knobs and buttons, pushed it back to its neglected corner, said, "Thank you for your attendance," and exited in his halting gait. There were to be no follow-up questions. There was to be no Cinderella. Not only that, but Cinderella yet again did not leave a shoe behind with which they could follow her, find her, save her. She did not need saving after all. She was the master of herself, and if she so chose, those around her. So the aristocracy would have to go on with self-congratulatory balls, hoping that Cinderella or others like her would re-enter their world to shine a light on the dim shadows of conversations and thought that the academic empire smugly considered the pinnacle of good fashion, good taste, and good discourse. For the remainder of their days in that land, the nobles would keep a sharp eye out for a princess disguised in all black and starkly contrasting beige stilettos. They would keep an eye out for courage. They would keep an eye out for originality. Thank you for listening to this week's short story from Prose, Cinderella in Beige Heels, an original short story by Jared I. McGee. The backing track for Cinderella in Beige Heels was taken from the Free Music Archive at freemusicarchive.org. An amazing community of artists that set out to help one another through the sharing of their art. This particular track is Land on the Golden Gate, from the album Stunt Island by Chris Zabriskie, a phenomenal artist from Orlando, Florida. More music from Mr. Zabriskie is available at the Free Music Archive or his website at chriszabriskie.com. A sincere thank you to the artist and freemusicarchive.org for the contribution. This track is being used under Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike License 4.0. As always, keep your eyes peeled for the next short story from Prose,